LAROI? Australians don't joke. They're not like they're serious.
Yeah, he'd be like, I don't get it. He's like, is this American humor? I'm like, I'm Canadian.
It's a slightly smaller round of applause, but it's none the more impactful. Please welcome Tate McRae.
Almost better, if you will. More
it is a little bit better.
It's more poignant.
It's a little more thoughtful
Thank
and
you.
poignant. But thank you, Tate. Thank you for the music.
Thanks for having me.
And thanks for rolling into the studio to talk about it. We're looking forward to getting a chance. You know, we had a quick chat at toward the end of last year, but the album wasn't done.
It wasn't finished.
And I could tell that you were searching for answers you didn't even know yet.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know yet. It's really not done.
Right. But you're back now, and I'm about to hit you with some real hard questions. No, I'm just kidding. The album's great, and I know you must be very proud of it. But I could tell that finishing it you were having to really get to that point where you could let it go when we spoke. You didn't feel like you were there yet when we spoke.
No, not at all. I also was right in the smack of the last 2 weeks of it.
Yeah.
Where we were just like, what even is the order of it?
So what is that like for people who are listening who've never been in that situation where something you've put so much time and energy into has hit that final stage, and without that stage being complete, there is no execution of the project? What is that feeling like for the artist?
For me at the time, it was just very overwhelming because I'm also, everything comes together at once. Like, I'm very visual with everything. So the videos and the artwork and everything needed to feel like a full project before I could even explain it.
Yeah.
I had zero perspective on it.
And you're
yet.
also on SNL. So it's also hey, that thing that you're supposed to do when everything's done, that's like the benchmark moment to launch it. We're going to do before the album's actually finished.
Yeah, it was so reversed.
No disrespect, you with the best management company in the business. No one's saying otherwise, but
It landed. That's all that
definitely,
Thank you.
It definitely landed.
Yeah.
Well, also having it hit record and then trying to finish an album with that momentum, I think is also a unique, great challenge because you're sort of existing in this micro world of everyone wants to talk to you about this one song and pour oil on that fire.
Yeah.
But you're like, it's got to be a part of something.
Of course. And that's that was the missing piece that I was trying to figure out the whole time. Is I had this one anchor, and I was like, hey, what's the explanation for all of this? And I think it's so weird because there's such a fine line between your personal life and your art. And when you don't have your personal life figured out, and then you're trying to explain it through art, it just takes a second for it to fully digest, and for even me to be able to explain it. So I was doing all these performances and everything, and I was just I need to figure out the root of
what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
And that just took a second, but
before old Clever Clogs over here comes in and starts annoying in a heavy Kiwi accent, asking what's it about?
I'm like, I don't know.
Explain yourself. What I got from listening to the record was there was a lot of self-examination going on as well, going all the way back to the roots of this and kind of where has my growth been from Calgary? That song was really interesting to me when I got to it because we're not used to people who are achieving their dreams and are performing at the highest level and writing at your level and get to do things like SNL, taking time to sort of sit there and analyze your behavior from when you were a kid.
I mean, it's funny because, I could do a big performance or something, and I feel like going back home sometimes can still feel like the biggest problem in the world. That's the most overwhelming time ever. I feel like you put on sometimes like a shield when you're doing hard things in life, and then you have to go back and do the easy things, and it's the biggest task in the world.
Well said.
And I think that's how I felt whenever I went home, is because everything hits you all at once. And for that song in particular, I was just it is so wild how I have this whole career now back in LA, and I live alone, and I'm 20, and I feel like I have all my together, and then I get back home and I'm like,
oh man, I'm reminded.
I'm like, why am I the same person? Nothing has changed. I'm still an annoying daughter. I'm still an annoying sister.
Well, I was going to say that's the key word that you seem to be able to be focusing on here, and it's sort of again, kind of self-awareness / processing your own behavior kind of way. When you were a kid, were there times when you felt like your energy was misunderstood, that your dreams and what you were trying to achieve was misunderstood? I mean, kids, even your friends, can be cruel if they feel that you're doing something or thinking something that they don't understand or haven't caught up to yet. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, that's what got me into writing in the first place, was just my inability to communicate. I just had no idea how to talk about any of my feelings. And as being a dancer too, everything's so physical, and you kind of just get told to shut up and do what you're told. And that was one way of expressing myself. And then in order to find any perspective on anything, I'd have to write poetry or stories. And music was the only way to like actually communicate with my friends or my parents or my brother. I would like write songs to tell them how I feel because I didn't know how to talk to them.
Would you ever be in the room when you played them, or would you send them to them?
I'd send them.
Yeah.
Oh, would never watch a person listen to your song.
Right.
It's torture.
Yeah, that's called touring. I don't quite know what we're going.
I'm like, yeah, that would suck. Hearing my songs.
I'm about to do that all year. How important was, do you think, and you touched on this a little bit when we were talking, this idea of performance and that armor that you, I think you used a different word, but like that sort of costume, that superhero type identity that you apply when you start dancing and performing and stuff, in helping you realize that actually you were enough for yourself and you didn't have to live through the images of others. It's
crazy because I think just even who I am in the studio and who I am on stage is just so different than who I am in real life. That's the thing, is how I talk about things is through my art. And even when I go on stage and dance, I'm like, who is that? It is just a totally different persona that sometimes I don't even recognize the second I walk off.
So without giving away too much, but just to give people an idea about the two different kind of parallels there, but like when you're not in performance mode or you're not singing or recording or writing or whatever, I mean, you were saying before and on the show that you live on your own. I mean, needless to say, you're good in your own company. You like that solace.
Yeah, I feel like I've always been like an introvert my whole life. So I spend a lot of time on my own, and I think that's how I like charge, and that's how I creatively get inspired, is being on my own.
You talk to yourself? I talk to myself
all the time. That's what writing is. You're just sitting on a laptop, like staring off in the distance.
No, but I mean, I'm not even writing a song. I'm just walking around just talking to myself.
Yeah, it's just a problem.
I mean, I do all the time. I'll be in the car, I'll be listening to a piece of music, and I'll be like, damn, that's really speaking to me. I'm like, there's no one in the car, right? Like, I'm just talking. So you had to go some real places when you were writing this album. You had to get some honest places, and to do that, you need to be in trusted environments. Mm-hmm. What was the sort of ratio of comfort to moments when you realized this isn't the place for me to write this song? Like, what was the balance between, these are the people I want to write these songs with. I'm not sure this is the right session or the right collaborator.
Well, it took a long time for me to even get to a point where I found my crew. I think I wrote so many songs this year, like probably 60 or 70 songs. And it's just the different people you work with just inspire different things. They make you speak differently, make you like look at things from a different perspective, and sometimes a really bad perspective.
And what do you mean by that?
It just sometimes you'll write from a like there's like different things that will like inspire feelings. You'll walk into a studio and you'll act a certain way, or you'll like be a bit of a chameleon to like whoever's in the room with you. Yeah. And then the songs just sound different, and you're just like, why did I write that?
Yeah, because the songs don't care about the identity that you're putting on in order to get through that session. The songs are like, this is in you.
I know. Yeah. So it's like finding the honesty and finding the people who you actually want to tell the truth to. It's like if I think just being around people who make you comfortable, and that's when you actually start writing the real.
That's when you get uncomfortable. Yeah. Who's the straightest shooter with you? Who's the one who'll sit there and go, not good enough, but in their own way?
Me and Amy Allen work really well together. Yeah. I think
she's a beast.
She is a beast. She's like the coolest writer ever, and I just honestly feel like she's like my older sister now. And
so she gives you older sister energy?
100%. Like, she gives me advice. I feel like we've gotten to a point now where it's not only advice in the songwriting, but it's in the personal life too.
Because she's had a front row seat to your personal life through the songwriting.
Yeah, really, honestly, it's like a therapy session every time. But
yeah. Who's the most fun? Who's the one that will prioritize the laughter and the joy in the process?
Honestly, Tedder's one of the funniest people to work with.
He's so funny.
He's such a genius, like the coolest guy ever. He has like the best instincts, and it's just so inspiring to be in a room with him. But man, that guy can talk.
He can talk?
He's just like,
he's unashamedly successful, which I love.
He has the craziest stories. Like, and you can ask a million questions, and you could sit there and talk for like 8 hours about his just stories.
He's been on my show before and just been like, I was in the studio with Adele. That album's coming along. I think it's coming out like 3 months or whatever. I'm like, Ryan, stop talking. I know there are 6 people right now who are scrambling for the phone, about to call me and say, edit that out. And I'm like, I can't. It's live, bro.
No filter. He's got no filter. But also,
filter.
That's the best.
By the way, just FYI, there is no Adele album coming. I just want to say, if you tuned into that halfway through, that was an anecdote from like 7 years ago. Yeah.
Disclaimer. But yeah, honestly, it's just funny because he has no filter, so he'll shoot you straight, like the way you sound, the way you're recording.
What's one of the things he said to you about a vocal performance that was just like, Ryan, are you kidding me?
Yeah, I'd be like, just
No, come on, you have one. You have one. Come on, say it.
No, I mean, it's nothing like too crazy. He'll just be like, you need to pronounce. Like, I can't understand a word you're saying. And I'm like, I'm working on it, I swear. Like,
I can't hear a word you're saying in this song.
Pronounce your words.
he's like, what even is that lyric? I'm like, I don't know, Ryan.
It's like a school teacher. Like, I'm sorry, speak up in class. I can't understand what you're telling me.
Say it with your chest,
Say it with
okay?
your chest.
All right, I want to get into this song, Hurt Feelings. I asked you the nearly impossible question when you've just finished a body of work that speaks as one voice. If there's one song that's your favorite, and you gave me the right reaction, which was a combination of frustration and annoyance, and then you gave me the answer, which is what?
I think my favorite song right now is Hurt My Feelings. It kind of shifts, depends on my mood. But honestly, I've just found the task of writing a happy song the most difficult thing in the world, because usually my writing is a way to talk about everything that isn't great in my life and everything that I don't want to talk about. And I was just like so happy to write a playful song. It just like felt like I was in a good mood walking in, a good mood walking out. I didn't feel like I just like ripped my entire heart out after leaving the studio, and it was just fun. And I was really happy with the production and the way it turned out.
I think we get obsessed with sad boy and sad girl. A sad day energy.
100%.
And I think it's like, man, it doesn't always have to be sad.
Yeah, it gets tiring.
When it comes to finding your voice outside of, and we've talked a little bit about this before, about how obviously through movement you found an audience and inspired people and were clearly able to emote through movement, through dance. When it came to finding your voice as a singer, was it intimidating for you? Was it nerve-wracking for you to think, how am I going to actually say something that isn't through my body, but actually through my voice?
I never really thought too hard about it when I was younger, and I was posting YouTube videos of just original songs. It was kind of just like me, like I said, communicating to my classmates of how I was feeling that week. But then as I got older, I was kind of like, well, if I'm going to do this and I'm going to make this like my life's mission, I have to have a message and an overall idea. And I think that stressed me out for a while, because when you're 16, 17, 18, you're like, I don't even know what I think about my life right now. I don't even know what I think about how I am as a person. And then for me to like be some sort of role model and talk other people, I'm like, I don't have any advice. I don't know what to tell you. And so I think music became a bit of a, I was like, I don't know what my perspective is. And as one shouldn't when they're 17 years old.
Absolutely not.
And so that's been something that as I'm getting older, I think it's just like, I've just realized that it's for me. The music is all for me, and it's for me to be able to get off whatever's on my chest and not to think about other people always.
Yeah, I'm not trying to put your friendship on blast, but it's a friendship nonetheless. I mean, you must talk to Olivia about this, because I can't imagine there's an artist out there whose words in particular are more analyzed from day one than hers. I mean, each of you are brilliant in your own unique way, but I feel like Olivia gets a lot of attention about who this is about, what this is about, what are you trying to say? Like,
totally.
You must be able to offer her some genuine support, being in the arts and being a friend for that.
It is really interesting once people start to care about your personal life and connect the two, because you start to like I said, there is such a fine line, and you don't want to be the person. It's like, I would never go up to people and exploit my relationship or talk about a person, or that's not my personality, but I'm a very honest songwriter.
Right.
So I'm like, I'm going to say the facts in the songs.
Right.
And then it's so contradicting, because then you hear the songs and you're like, oh, I sound like I'm trying to exploit this, but I'm not.
Well, that's where I think there needs to be a disconnection between your truth and the truth that we as people, as fans, are trying to elicit from you.
Yeah.
They're not the same truth.
No. And that's the disconnect that I think people should do with music, is like, because music can be such a big range of things. I mean, it can go from so true to the story to like also a big exaggeration. Creativity comes from wherever. I can pull from 3 people at once and write a song. I can pull from one person. And so I think people have to take songs with grains of salt sometime, because as much as it can be, you can relate it back to yourself and your own life. It's like, doesn't mean that it's about this person of the artist. You kind of have to like disconnect the face from the music sometimes to really
titular,
appreciate
man.
it.
It's pretty Moorish, It's a hard disconnection to make. You're not wrong. I think for me, what really helps me as I was kind of maturing into my taste was to realize that actually it was an opportunity for me to apply the song to my life, and not dig more into yours.
100%. Yeah, and that's the point of art, is to give it to the audience and it's theirs. And now don't associate it with me.
What do you guys listen to when you're driving around? Because she's into some fun man, she listens to like Rage and the Pumpkins, and like she got the Breeders on tour,
Yeah.
bro. We need to give her another round of applause for that, because choosing the Breeders for a tour is such a nod. So she's got amazing taste and like some really alternative. What did you turn her on to? Like, what are you like? No, listen to this.
No, we kind of just listen to like a lot of like Noah Kahan and Zach Bryan, and we also listen to we listen to a lot of country music together. I think just 'cause the lyrics are our favorite part.
How do you write songs? I've never asked you this. Like, do you play instruments or do you write on laptops or do anything to get like melodies and things going?
Yeah, I play keys, not very well, but it gets me enough.
What you need, yeah.
Yeah, but I usually either starts with like a poem. I write a lot of poetry, and or I'll get on the mic and it's usually just like my whatever comes first, my initial instincts, and I'll usually sing out exactly how I'm feeling. It'll come onto the mic and it'll be there.
One of the great things I think Lana's done in recent times was create more of a connective tissue between the poetry and songwriting and poetry within itself by releasing these books, and it's pretty amazing. And would you do that? I mean, I'm sure you write a lot that doesn't make it into your songs. Would you ever kind of construct and release anything like that?
100%. I would definitely want to do a book one day, I think. Even if it was just something it could be fictional and non-fictional and poetry and short stories together. I think that'd be a dream. It'd be very cool.
All right, let me ask you a question that I think only you can really answer at this point, given where you are in your life, which is, from your perspective, within your generation, with people around your age coming out of the education system, and you observe things pretty clearly, or you couldn't put them into songs. You have to be an emotionally intelligent, observational person to write songs, I think.
Yeah.
What are the sort of primary concerns that you and your friends felt as your time in the education system came to an end? What are the things, not even fears and worries, but the things that matter the most to you as you were starting to take your first steps out into the world to be an artist?
I think obviously this career path is such a risk. It's because you determine everything you want to do and everything you want to say. And I could choose one day to do nothing at all, and that's my choice. Or I could choose to, make up a million different things. It's all in your hands, which is a really scary thing to live by, a scary way to live, just like having no agenda really. And I think also it's really interesting because you have to be in the right mindset to be able to create. So it's not like you can just go to work one day and just be like, let's get to work and let's, you have to be in the mental state in order to create the best art. And I always feel like it's when my personal life isn't adding up, it can be sometimes so hard to get in the studio and make the stuff that's going to make your work life flourish. So it's such an interesting thing, and I feel like as over the last couple of years, as I've like grown up and tried to figure out myself, I feel like sometimes I disconnect from my emotions to try and work harder, and then I can't work because I'm disconnected from my emotions. And then I'm like, what am I doing?
That's called writer's block.
Yeah, and it's a really scary thing because you can't control it, and you can't control when creativity sparks. And so I'd say like it is such a risk, but then when it is working and when you do feel it and when God does come into the room and that idea comes to you, it's the best feeling in the entire world. There's nothing that beats it. So it's like...
Well said. I was talking to an artist yesterday about this. I don't want to say who it was because the record's not out yet. It's coming out. We were getting the conversation in place. But she was saying that she stopped for personal reasons for quite a long time. Yeah. And she watched, and no one ever put it this way, she watched as the emails slowed down and the gigs stopped getting booked.
Yeah.
And the metrics started to dip and the stream started to drop.
Yeah.
And she watched as the whole machine just came to a very slow halt. Yeah.
That's so scary.
Scary, right?
Yeah.
But she said as she came out of it, she realized that she started to write again and create music again, that it really did belong to her.
100%.
And that all that stuff is there and it can cloud your judgment. But at the end of the day, if she chose to go into a studio and record something that was personal, it was enough.
Yeah. And that's all it is I think you can't think about what's going on the outside. That's what kills it all. I mean, if you think about the pressure of it and let it get to your head, it can totally wreck why you do it in the first place.
Does your stomach tip upside down when someone says, hey, come and play on SNL at primetime Saturday night around America? Or do you go, got this?
It was a bit of both. I was like really shocked that they asked. Like, I was like, this is bucket list. Where I was, it's one of those moments where this isn't real. The whole thing felt like a very big fever dream to me. And then I finished it and I'm like, I can't believe that just happened.
What was the party like?
It was so fun. We had a blast.
Really? Because you can't drink. And I'm sure being behind closed doors, I'm sure there's a different rule for artists. But at the same time,
My parents were there. I brought them. My dad was geeking out the whole time. Like he
amazing.
just like, they were so stoked. They were probably more nervous than me because I kind of like go into my zone and lock in and, whatever. But my parents were so scared.
It must be a trip for them to have seen their kid be able to find that fifth gear from such a young age, to know that you can go on that stage and reach the bar that you set for yourself and achieve things at an age where most kids are just trying to figure out how to get their homework done and play video games and figure out like what the next step is.
Yeah. Well, I give them a lot of kudos because they're just honestly like the best parents in the world and have always told me to follow my passion. And it's always been very self-motivated, but they have always been the extra push to be like, well, then why are you doing this? Like you gotta go for it if you're gonna do this.
Let's stay here for a second because I think that relationship doesn't get an enormous amount of credit. It doesn't have to be parental. It could be sibling, could be friendship, could be just guidance. But that idea of a reassuring word or a piece of critical observation when you need it.
Yeah.
Is there an example or is there a story or is there even just a feeling or an impression that springs to mind about a time when you were younger and your parents really helped you get to that place where you knew it's like, all right, things have changed now. Like I needed that.
Yeah. I mean, I remember me and my brother have been so competitive my entire life. He's a hockey player.
He's older?
He's older.
Oh, so you're a younger sister?
Yeah.
So you are kicking down every door you can.
Cover. You're such a oh my God.
Can you believe this though, man? He's in trouble because can you imagine having Tate as a younger sister who's competitive? It's over.
No, we were crazy when we were younger. I remember because he goes to Dartmouth and he's super intense about his studies and his hockey. And,
Yeah.
I just remember I was the little.
He's an all-American Canadian.
Yeah, I was literally I was a little sister and we were so competitive, like always one-upping each other, and I admired him so much. So whenever he would do something, I'm like, I'm going to do something now. And if you're waking up at 6 a.m., I'm waking up at 5 a.m. and I'm going to do 500 crunches and you're going to do 600 crunches. And it was like chaos in our household. And
Meanwhile, your parents are just sleeping in on a Sunday morning, drinking their coffee, reading the paper, just going, what
Kids
is
are just
going
getting
on
jacked.
outside at this room?
No, we were literally 8 years old and I'm like, I'm getting a water, and he's like, I'm getting an iced tea, and I'm like, you're getting an iced tea. It was like 8 years old, like crazy. So that was a big thing that I think, like, obviously, I just feel very lucky to have an older brother that I like admired so much, because that instigated a lot of like the motivation. But then also my dad was just very athlete mentality. So he was like, drop the mic, get the work done, put your head down, like go for it. And that just like fired me up anytime that he would give me something that's why I have a very athlete mind. And then my mom was my dance teacher my whole life. So she was the creative in the house who was constantly playing music, constantly giving me ideas, constantly like just like making my life feel like my imagination. And so I just have a really amazing family and who our house was just like buzzing all the time.
Look at you going to comedy clubs. I've never been.
No?
I've never been.
It was my first time and I really enjoyed it.
Do you feel sometimes when you go to a comedy club, and I don't want to put your friends on blast who you went to, but by all means speak on their behalf, where you feel compelled to laugh? Because you're at a comedy club and you paid for the privilege of laughing? Like, do you think you're laughing at jokes that if you saw on TV and you were lying on the couch, you'd be like, that's not funny.
I actually thought that was going to be the case. I'm like, I'm about to have the most miserable night, like fake laughing. Because I just I really don't find a lot like that funny, especially like obnoxious humor sometimes.
But do you find yourself fake laughing nonetheless?
Well, it was so funny because me and my friends just have zero filter. So if we didn't like someone, it was like, I'm like, we look like over here because I'm like, if we don't like something, we're just like. But then obviously it was like all the comedians were unreal.
Okay, I mean,
we had a blast.
You got to tell me whether or not I can say who you went with, because it's pretty clear that all these people have pretty amazing resting straight faces.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so you went with Olivia.
Uh-huh.
Her videos rely on the fact that she can shoot you down real quick.
Yeah.
Real quick, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
LAROI. Australians don't joke. They're not like they're serious.
Yeah, he'd be like, I don't get it. He's like, is this American humor? I'm like, I'm Canadian.
Can we You're like, I have more in common with you, man. We're part of the same Commonwealth,
That is
baby.
so good.
He's got a special place in my heart, that guy.
Yeah, he's awesome.
I just love him, and I love where he's at with his career right now, because I feel like he, almost more than anyone in his peer group, has broken the spell of this expectation around a big song.
Yeah.
And then it's like, actually, I've got some control over this now. I don't need to live up to that expectation anymore. Like, I can be a career artist on my own terms and do things, like Caliucci's was saying, at my own pace. Do you feel that for him?
Yeah, well, he's so in love with music. I think that's the thing, is his taste is so good, and he goes into the studio and it's just all for the music. And I think that's the coolest thing. Even talking to him, I really admire him, and think he's just such an unreal artist.
He's got such a great, such an amazing natural ability to reach a melody flawlessly, but with imperfect emotion. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He could be perfect in every way, and it's like, oh, this is just too dialed in. But he's so in key and so amazing at performing, but he leaves the emotion very raw.
Yeah.
It's crazy skill.
Very special.
You know, I know what this album meant to you. I could see it in your eyes when we tried to talk about it last time. And you were very gracious with your answers, but I could see that you were still very deep in the story.
Mm-hmm.
Before I let you go, because I've tried to sort of give you the space to get the information that you want to share out, but what is the story behind this album?
There's a lot. I think I go through I was just honestly trying to process being 20 and living on my own again. I think I definitely was, for the first time ever, walking to the studio with the approach of, how am I going to dance to this and how am I going to perform to this?
Which is funny, because it's like there's not an enormous amount of dynamic dancing rhythm on this record. There's a lot of thought, really thoughtful kind of reduced arrangement.
Of course. I think there's... not
that you need to dance to tempo, but you know what I'm saying?
Right. No, I think all the up-tempo records, I just remember approaching it in the studio from, how does this make me feel as a dancer? Which I've never, ever thought about my dancing in the studio before. It's always been where my lyrics came from, and just the ideas kind of just like flowed out of me, and my subconscious. But this was definitely from the approach of, like, how am I going to perform these songs on tour, and what's it going to look like, and what does the video look like? And that was really exciting for me. That feel like it totally re-inspired me in the studio, was envisioning the picture of it visually. And then also, I feel like just a lot of it was just brutally honest about my life and how I was feeling at that point in time at age 20.
Tate McRae, thanks for coming in.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, think later. The album is out now, and start to finish, go stream it on Apple Music and get ready for the touring to be done. You excited about the shows?
I'm so excited. I'm, playing Madison Square Garden this year.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm so pumped.
Holy.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it'll be so cool. It's my bucket list. So.
What's the date?
August 22nd.
How has your imagination run wild at that thought? I mean, the idea of just what you're going to be able to do in that space.
I mean, performing at Madison Square Garden is something you dream about and watch all your biggest idols do for your whole life. So just to even be like on that stage and in that room and be headlining is just like crazy to me. I just want to dance.
Who told
and
you? Was it?
perform.
I mean, I'm being a little bit inside baseball here. Did Tommy or Jeffrey? Who told you that you were going to do that?
Both of them, actually.
They took you to one side and were like, "Hey, we got news."
Yeah, they called me and they were just like, "This is what we're gonna do," and I started crying. I was freaking out. Dream. Just like everything I work for is for that, just to be on a stage like that.
Oh, that's a great way for this to come to a conclusion. Everything you work for gets you to the stage you dream of, man. Keep dreaming. Good to see you.